Good evening. Good evening. I'm going to share a short message on tonight. I'm gonna try to make this quick. Haven't been on in some time, but I want to share something. We have all heard the verse from is in Proverbs chapter 23, and the portion that we hear a lot as I talk about on this evening. I haven't been on in a long time on this channel anyway, but it is verse 7. For as he thinks within himself, so is he. We hear that portion of the verse all the time. And what I want to do tonight is really kind of just go through a quick understanding of what this actually means, so that we can get a better understanding of how it applies. And I'm gonna tell you, it's a very powerful a very powerful piece of text. Of course, I love to read the Proverbs because it's packed full of wisdom. It gives us understanding about not only ourselves, not only about the Lord, but just really about how people operate, inner man, outer man, the consequences of wrong decisions, and the benefits of the right decisions. So tonight, I want to share a little bit from this. So as it reads here on the text, it says, when you sit down to dine with a ruler, consider carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are a man of great appetite. Do not desire his delicacies, for it is deceptive food. Do not weary yourself to gain wealth. Cease from your consideration of it. When you set your eyes on it, it is gone. For the wealth certainly makes itself wings, like an eagle that flies toward the heavens. Do not eat the bread of a selfish man, or desire his delicacies. For as he thinks within himself, so he is. He says to you, eat and drink, but his heart is not with you. You will vomit up the morsel you have eaten and waste your compliments. Amen. And what I want to do is I want to kind of talk about this because this is very insightful, very insightful. So when we see this particular text, and it speaks about how we are to, this is the understanding we need to get from the text. First of all, as it is communicating in the entire text, it's talking about a specific incident, a man. It starts at the verse first. The first verse is there. It talks about when we sit down and dine with the ruler, consider carefully what is presented or what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are a man of great appetite. So basically, this is talking about as an individual, when we go into the presence of a ruler. And think about it in this sense. We can say a presence of a ruler, someone that's in a position of authority. If we just break it down to that level, is someone with a great position of authority that may have some influences, may have some resources, may have all these other things. But we have to be careful when we sit down at their table that we don't become, I want to say, a fan. I want to say something like, don't become overwhelmed or hungry at what they present before you, because this speaks about a ruler that has authority, but at the same time, he himself uses his position for his own benefit. He's not one that's doing things to really help people. He's really ultimately selfish. And what happens is when we put ourselves in a position where we become hungry after what someone presents before us, if we go into a position, let me do this. I'm gonna do this. Hold on. When we sit back, and I want you to think about this just for a moment. When we sit back and we think about something with this text, can you imagine you being in the midst of a room with a ruler and you know that he is unethical? We know that he has He's a cutthroat type dealer, or he's one of those people that only cares about himself. But when we sit down at his table, we see all of this food. We hear here in this text in Proverbs 23, we see that he sits down here and it talks about in that first verse, consider careful what is before you. So what is presented before you is what we need to be mindful of. These things can be enticing. They can cause us to go after the wrong things. So when we look here in the second verse, it says, and put a knife to your throat. That means that we have to exercise some self-control when it comes to being in the midst of these people with their authority, that we can't. Can you be bought? Basically, can you be bought? I want us to see this text. Right. I want us to see something here in the second verse. And put a knife to your throat if you are a man of great appetite. If you don't have the self-control, if you can't manage your own self-control, you need to cut it off. Now, he's not telling us to put a literal knife to our throat, but he says that you need to know who you are when you sit in the midst of somebody else who has already shown you who they are, because they will try to buy you. They will try to merchandise you. Listen to this. Do not desire his delicacies, for it is deceptive food. That means that there's a false motive behind what is being presented. There's a false motive behind what is being presented. Do not weary yourself for gaining wealth. Now, this is not talking about us having wealth or money, but it's like seeking after it is always a problem when we seek after money. Those that pursue money, we see that in the love of money is the root of all evil. We see it in Ecclesiastes, the same thing, that you'll work for money and then you'll lose everything. Those types of things, if you're seeking after it, this is not talking about having wealth or having materials. This is really talking about seeking after it. Sometimes, and the best thing that I can say, the best example I can give is if you imagine someone in great position or authority. It can be at any level. It can be in a business. It can be in government or whatever. Have you ever seen people that go into these places and can be bought? There's a movie that my wife and I watch periodically, and it's called Black Lightning. And in this show, it is a superhero show, but there's one guy, his name is Tobias, right? And in this guy that's named Tobias, what he does is he has all this money, he has all this wealth, and he is always offering up things for people to bring them in. But he's not doing it because he's thinking about them. He's doing it because he's thinking about himself, how he can use those people. And I remember seeing one episode where there was this little kid, this guy, I want to say this little kid, he was like 24 years old. He was real smart. They offered him some money. And then he was like, no, why do you want me? No, he said, no, I don't want the money. But then he sent him a large sum of money, like I think it was like $100,000. He put it in it. He cashed after them or sent it to his account right then. And the guy changed his mind because his appetite was for the money. And what this guy, Tobias, was going to get him to do was do some illegal things. That's what this is talking about. It's talking about a person that can be bought by a person that has false motives. He has no concern over you. I'm going to show you this. All right. So we see here, it says, do not weary yourself for the gain of wealth. Cease from your consideration of it. When you set your eyes on it, it is gone. For wealth certainly makes itself wings like an eagle that flies towards the heavens. It'll be there and then it'll be gone. Verse 6. Do not eat the bread of a selfish man. Remember, I told you it's about the guy who he's not doing it because he's trying to help. He's doing it to see, and he's going to try to use that as a position of control. Do not eat with a man of that is selfish, a selfish man. Do not eat the bread of a selfish man or desire his delicacies. Why? For he, as he thinks within himself, so is he. So what is this talking about? Is this talking about our mind thinking? I know I was going to share some things a few weeks ago about how cognitive behavioral therapy is speaking about, it's biblical. CBT is biblical, but this is not what this is talking about. This here is talking about a person who has false motives inwardly. He's like a ravaging wolf, but he's doing nice things outwardly, but they're all for selfish motives. This is speaking about a person that has not been converted, but a person that is trying to take advantage of others. That's what this person is. This is what this was reflecting about. This is the conversation that we see here. Is not so much as the man thinking something different. No, he's thinking inside of himself. He's already planning inside of himself. He's setting a snare. He's setting a trap for those that will take it. If you're greedy, you can fall into this trap. If your hunger and thirst after wealth and you can be bought, you will be bought if you go after it. This is why we have to be sure and understand where we are, what we're doing, even ourselves. We have to examine ourselves first. And that's what this scripture is talking about. This scripture is speaking about a person who is manipulating other people, who's trying to take advantage of other people with what he has. This is why we must be careful. We must examine ourselves before we come to the table. Before we come to the table, let's look at this again. What's that first verse up there? Here. Consider carefully what is before you and put a knife to your throat if you are a man of great appetite. What he's saying is we need to check ourselves. We need to examine ourselves. We need to see and we need to understand that when people put things before us and we know that they're selfish, we know that they're evil, we know that they're conniving, guess what happens? We fall prey to it. I'm going to get ready to close this out. For as he thinks in himself, I already read that, but his heart is not with you. This is why it says this. His heart is not with you. Why? Because he's for himself. His heart is not with you because he's for himself. He's doing these things with a false motive. When we talk about false prophets, the false prophets, they do things to merchandise you. They flatter you. They do all kinds of different things. It says flattering words in Proverbs. Flattering words is like a net spread before your feet. It's a trap. It's a snare. It's a trick. He's trying to pretend that he loves, but he wants to use you for his benefit. But if you fall prey to what he say, you'll be caught in a trap. And this is what it says. You will vomit up the morsel you have eaten and waste your compliments. You will vomit up the morsels you have eaten and do what? Waste your compliments. Now, what does this mean? How can we apply this today? What is this talking about? I know many of people that I have worked with in the past and before that that sometimes people only want you to use you. And then after they can't use you, they don't even talk to you. And this is what it means, like your compliments, the things that you said while it was going on that you thought it was good until they use what they got from you is all gone. You're going to look back at that and say, man, I can't believe I allowed this to happen to me. This is what it's talking about, vomiting up the morsel that was eaten. Everything that you received, you don't even want to think about it no more. You don't even want to talk about it no more. It's like man, you regret it the whole time that was spent. And you would have wasted your compliments. You told people how good this person was, but guess what? They wasn't really good at all. They wasn't. Because they're selfish. And we fall prey with our weaknesses. We have to make sure that we don't get caught up into these things. I know there's people that have worked with other people that use them. As long as they do what they say, they're good. But when they go against them, they the worst thing since sliced bread. I know we have seen that happen somewhere before, where you see people who, as long as you work with them, but as soon as you correct them on something, they bad mouthing you. Whatever a man think, so is he. If you see the signs of selfishness, if you see the sign of a lack of integrity, if you see character flaws, whatever a man thinketh, so is he. And you think that he's being nice to you? He's the same all the way around. So that's all I wanted to share this evening. I'm making this short. We have to make sure we understand it in context. This is not about cognitive behavior. This is about an unregenerated person who's selfish and is presenting himself to be one thing that he's not. And he was taking advantage of someone who does not check themselves. And this is a warning. Be careful and understand and discern. If you see the signs, then and you see the opposite of that, and then you see you already know that the person is selfish. They're not giving it to you for you. They're giving it to you so that they can have their claws in you. You got to be careful of that. So be blessed. Have a great and wonderful evening. I might leave this up for a little while, but I really want you to get in that. Read that Proverbs 23 verses 1-8. Understand that. Understand what it means. And then be mindful of what it says. All right. Be blessed. Have a great and wonderful day.